So, welcome to the show, KimiLu. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm all over here in the Philippines and we're doing this. Thank you so much to technology for making this happen. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And obviously, today we're going to kind of deep dive into your story and who you are. But before we do that, just briefly tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I am KimiLu, life coach. I hold sacred space for heart centered leaders who are ready for their quantum leap. I know it's like a truckload of terms, but I really just love holding space for people to become and celebrate who they really are authentically. That's the main thing.
I love that. And tell us like a little bit about like what's life been like for you? Like what is there any kind of challenges you've had? Like what's your story? Our listeners, it might be the first time they're hearing about you. So share a bit about yourself.
I love sharing about my story. There are so many chapters, I would say. The first chapter in this journey would be the time when I was actually lost myself. I was feeling like hopeless and empty. Like I was trying to feel my chest and like I felt like I couldn't feel. That that's how I guess sad I was at that time. And I thought I needed to talk to someone about it, like maybe to process it, or to guide me on what to do, or to tell me what was happening because I couldn't understand. I would be in the office and then all of a sudden tears would fall off of my eyes. It's like crazy. I can't understand. So I tried to look for a life coach, and it was unheard of 11 years ago here in the Philippines. So I didn't find anyone, could not find anyone. So I said, that's awful, terrible. What if somebody else would need the same help? What will happen? So there was a thought in my mind, maybe I can be the one, but I don't know how to become one because there are no courses, no classes over here. So I had to look abroad, and thankfully I found one, and it was in San Diego, California. So I had to fly over there, and I took the course, came back to the Philippines, and started my practice already. So that's my first story, I would say.
Thank you for sharing that because there'll be so many people that are listening to this that maybe are in need of that conversation and that person just to talk to, because that's not an easy place to be when you just going through your everyday life and you're crying and you don't really understand why and what's going on. Like that's high level stress that's happening under the surface, and that's not okay. If somebody's listening to this, like it's okay that you're feeling, but it's not okay if you almost just brush it away and don't address it. So I love that you've like pursued that on your journey.
I know. I mean, I'm thinking like I was also obviously much younger then, and I was thinking, thank goodness for like self awareness. Like I was aware that I needed help and I wanted to ask for it. It's just that there wasn't any, so I had to really search far and wide to receive the help that I needed. And so I was lost, and I found myself somehow because of that little journey, that huge step into that. Yeah.
In my experience, I think the best coaches, especially life coaches, are the ones that have been through their own struggles as well. You know, that
Right.
you were so passionate about it because of obviously getting yourself on the right track, but then you had this bigger idea that actually, do you know what, there's other people that are suffering and I can be that person to help. And that's really, really inspiring because it goes back to the old quote, like be the change you want to see in the world, isn't it? And you go after that. And now
Oh.
how many people have you helped since you went on that journey?
Ooh, I can't even count anymore. I will tell you though, from last year alone, it was like 761 to be exact people that I was able to help. And that's just because they enrolled for classes. But of course, I mean, on social media and like the podcast as well, I mean, it's helping other people I can't really account for anymore. So just last year alone, there were hundreds of them. So I'm super duper happy to be able to help.
All because you had that level of self-awareness. I love it.
Yeah. And it was key. It's important, obviously, that aspect of awareness, because that's the thing that you realized that you were actually aware of you needed help. And it's important for people to realize that if you do need help, it's becoming aware that you actually do and accepting that it's okay to ask for help. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of go down or kind of fall down, where they think that I've got all this stuff going on, but no, I don't need any help. I can just go through it on my own. I can sort it out myself. And that's not the case. We're not, as human beings, we're designed to be able to need help as well. We can't do everything on our own. So becoming aware that we do need help and accepting that is the first step to, again, like you said, is looking for that person to be able to help. And the good thing is where you are, you have now become that person. So that people will seek out.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or is it's a global worldwide thing, but over here we are known to be like resilient. Filipinos are resilient. We even have a hashtag for it. Okay, and hashtag it's more fun in the Philippines. Filipinos are resilient. So when you have a problem over here, it's like, no, I can handle it. Oh, maybe I'll just hang out with my friends and we'll just drink and everything will be okay. And because I'm Filipino, then this should be easy. But the reality is that no, we need other people to help us out. Um, I guess more professional help as well, and not just hanging out and drinking.
It's so interesting that you say that, because what the word that pings up in my mind is identity, right? You said like Filipinos, you're renowned for being resilient, and I know before we started, I shared with you. Obviously, we spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and we're fortunate to work with a lot of Filipinos, and it was a really great experience. And some of the things we noticed is that they're the most caring and actually deep people, and actually, if that's not nurtured, it
Mm,
can be something that they shy away from. And it doesn't need to be. Like you've stepped into that depth, you've stepped into that resilience and been able to bring that to others, so that they don't have to just survive and be resilient, go out drinking or whatever. Actually, you can really make deep connections, so that you don't have to go out drinking all the time, almost to escape whatever it is you're going through. And this isn't just for Filipinos, this is for everybody. This
yeah.
everybody has their form of escapism. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I agree. I'm just so happy that I took this step. I stepped into it, and there were other challenges when I fully stepped into it. Of course, because I was, super young at that time, and it wasn't known. So when I would tell them that I'm a life coach, they would give me either a blank look, like this blank look, or they would have their eyebrows meet together, and then they'll say, what's a life coach? Is that like a sports thing? Like what do you do? They don't understand. And then I tell them, the whole, oh, if they're a little bit sad or lost, or they need guidance, then I'm the person. And then they look at me again, and this time from head to toe like this, and I'll say, oh, but you're so young, how can you help people? Like, for wisdom maybe they're thinking. And then I tell them, oh, you know what, it's really the skill of maybe asking the right questions, being able to have these tools and techniques. And then I tell them, oh, even studied, in San Diego, I took my certification there. Then they look at me again and they say, oh, but you studied elsewhere. So that means you can help maybe, Americans, but not Filipinos. Filipinos are different. It's just like never ending, what's that word? Like they don't want to believe, or they don't want to like support, contradicting me. So that those were my challenges.
That's tough as well, because there's a lot of people that will be listening to this, and they might not be coaching, but there's something that they really want to do, and the people surrounding them is and their environment isn't supportive of that. And I think one, like you've done, is like being that change and becoming that person shows other people that it is possible. And whenever we start to see possibility, those limits start to break away as well. And I think that's so, so powerful, such a powerful lesson. How did you start to overcome those challenges?
Thankfully, I mean, other people, the outsiders, are not so supportive, are not very educated about what I'm doing. But my parents, I'm very lucky that they are actually marriage counselors as volunteers in like a community in our religion, Catholic. So they were doing it for free. So I saw them do that to married couples. That's why I think I thought maybe I just need someone to talk to. But it's awkward because I'm not married and I'm their child, so I don't wanna, talk to them. But um, when I, you know, when I wanted to do this, they were supportive, and so I got my strength from them. And also I had friends also who were very supportive and were telling me, yeah, you can really do this, like we support you. So there were a few, I could maybe count like 10 people who were super supportive. But with those 10 people, they would say it only takes one. If one person believes in you, then you also start believing in yourself. So it's so important to have that one person or maybe 10 people in your life that will support you.
For sure, definitely. It's so important to have those people around that support you. And it's also important to realize that like not everyone is ready to seek out help as well. And that's where you'll get those people who will start to kind of like criticize what you do or start to kind of judge what you do is because they're just not ready. They haven't become aware yet that they actually
Right.
need help. And once we realize that okay, there are people who aren't ready yet, which is fine. You can't help everybody until they're ready to be helped. It definitely makes the job of being a coach much easier as well because you understand that you don't take it too personally when someone does question you or doesn't believe in what you do because it's not about you, it's about them. They're just not ready to accept that they may need the help that you're offering. But when you do get the people who are aware and who are ready to take that help, that's when you know, okay, now I can use what I know. I can use my experience, my knowledge, my skills to be able to help this person. And one thing that we see that your mission is to transform warriors to warriors. So people who
Yeah.
worry to becoming a warrior. So how do you do that? Tell our listeners, how do you actually do that with people who seek out your help?
Yeah, warriors to warriors. Actually, that little tagline was from a little research that I did last year through the pandemic. I was asking everybody like, what's bothering you? What are you guys feeling right now? And then a lot of people, like 80%, said, oh, they're worried because of the uncertainties, right?
Yeah.
So that word became something that I wanted to help with. Like I wanted to relieve them of their worry. So I created a program actually, which is called the Well-being Boost Program, so that they can receive tools that they can use so that they can be warriors.
I love it.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about the Wellbeing Boost program.
Sure. So it's like a 1 month container, and there are four different themes each week. And so we focus on intention, and then also gratitude, compassion, and courage. Those four. Just because I feel like they are somewhat like pillars of being able to deal with whatever's going through like on their own, like they can do it on their own. It's easy, like you can set an intention daily. You don't really need somebody to tell you like, hey, set it. But it's really a boost because they learn it in the program, like, oh, so I can do that. It's really like a 101 into being self-aware, basically.
I love that.
Mhm.
So like one of the main things that's coming up for me here, because my next question was going to be like, why do you think intention, gratitude, compassion and courage is so important for well-being? But I think you kind of just answered that when you said self-awareness 101, right? Because it's about taking that ownership
Oh,
and
yes,
responsibility. But what would you add to that? Like, why is it
for
so?
sure. Yeah, so let me expound a little bit on that one. Intention, like when you set an intention, your days become more meaningful, like more purposeful, instead of just, waking up and, doing whatever it is that you need to do. When you set an intention, I just feel like your heart becomes more purposeful. I think that would be the word for intention. And then if it's gratitude, then they write down things, or maybe they think of things they're grateful for. But I feel when you're grateful, it expands your heart even more. And as people would always say, gratitude is a magnet for miracles, right? And it also interrupts any kind of worry or anxiety. So instead of worrying, just be grateful. You're still breathing, you're still alive, you can do what you need to do. And yeah, so be totally grateful for that. And then for compassion, we talk a lot about one's cup. And when you fill up your cup, I have been talking about this recently, and I really want to teach people that you don't pour out of your full cup, you pour out from the overflow. So the rule would be always have your cup full, period. Because if you give out from that, then it depletes you. So you're giving out from a depleted cup. That means it is a disservice to whoever's getting from you, receiving from you, because it's half. It's like the effort is half. Even if you feel like, no, I'm giving my all, but then you're not okay. So it's that self-compassion. And then for courage, I think when you have courage to do these little things for yourself, then you see the transformation in your life already. So that's really like the whole like package or the container, how it would like to affect, or how I would like you, everybody, to benefit from the Wellbeing Boost program.
I love it. It
Mm.
sounds awesome. I especially love what you said about like, because I'm always saying to people, you can't pour from an empty cup. It's like the classic saying. But
Exactly.
but being able to give from the overspill, I think, is very, very powerful. And I think that's something a lot of people could take away, is actually it's not just about maintaining a full cup. It's about actually encouraging yourself to overspill in all these areas, so you have so much more to give, because then we even receive more as well, right? Because of the universal laws, and it becomes this magical formula, which is pretty cool. I love that.
I think so. So it's not like, oh, okay, I'm feeling empty. I'm going on a weekend vacation, and then when you come back, you work again. You become your busy self again. So it's better, and I'm sure you guys know this. It's nice to have those little breaks or little rituals of self love and self care within your day. And it has to be like, every single day, so that you're always full.
Brilliant.
Definitely. And like those four pillars you're talking about, intention, gratitude, compassion, courage, I think they're also very powerful in helping to keep us grounded and more in the present. Because so many people live with their head in the future, or worrying about what happened in the past, which they can't change. And when you're kind of like, when you're setting those intentions, you're being grateful for everything that you've got while still working towards improving and growing, and that compassion that helps you keep you grounded in the moment, and think about what I have right now and how grateful I am for it, and it's everything that I really need right now. It doesn't mean you can't like visualize and work towards better, like being better and improving in the future. It just means you're grateful for what you have now, and you're compassionate. Your intentions are driven towards your purpose, and that just keeps you in the moment, which helps you then to become more, well, I say,
Yeah.
your growth, your learning, your experience, everything just become more profound in the future as well. So what you're doing right now is going to help you down the line.
Yes. I love this quote. Like you make a better world by making a better you.
Hmm.
And when? Now.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yes.
I really like that. So what kind of results can people expect to get from doing your wellbeing boost program specifically?
Like if it's like a measurement thing. So at the beginning, we ask them to rate themselves as easy as like from 1 to 10. 10 is the highest, and you know how they think their well-being is. So of course, usually they would say like 6 or 7, and they'll give their reasons. And then at the end of the course, we ask them again. So now, how are you feeling from 1 to 10? And of course they would increase like, oh, I'm now a 9 or a 10, and they would also give their reasons like, oh, now I'm feeling more present. Oh, right now, I have my gratitude practice and I love it. I get to sleep soundly already. And then now I get to become more compassionate to myself, so I'm able to set boundaries. I can say no to things that I doesn't really serve my higher purpose. And now, I'm doing all of those things for me. I said yes to me. So those little things, I mean, of course, they add up, and they become like better beings because of taking care of their well-being. Those are the usual results.
Thank you so much for sharing those results, because it's easy for people listening to just be like, oh yeah, I've heard of intention, I've heard of gratitude, I've heard of compassion, I've heard of courage, but
Yeah.
they're not just words. They're so powerful when you implement them. And that's
Right.
what your program will help people do, is to absolutely implement them and experience them so they can actually gain those results. Because sometimes people often listen to podcast after podcast or read book after book, and they don't get to that implementation phase, and that's where the magic is, isn't it? That's where those results actually happen. So what,
Yes.
out of those four, which one do people tend to either struggle with the most, or you find maybe neglect the most? Which one do you think?
Struggle the most. Ah, is it before or after?
Oh, before they've done your program, obviously.
Oh, before, I think it would be well, I think before the sessions, they wouldn't think of setting intentions. The gratitude, I think everybody thinks they're grateful, but they don't actually do the practice of gratitude.
Don't
Um,
feel.
right? Like, hey, I'm grateful. Like, why are you gonna teach me this? But then they realize, oh, it's different when I'm actually, writing it down and all that. And I think a big one would be really this, like setting boundaries, having time for themselves. We have a lot of moms that attend the sessions, and all of them are like, oh my gosh, I'm giving so much to everyone and I'm not giving to myself. So that's always like the realization right there. So I think those are the like pointers, and then the courage to actually do them, because before they're like, oh, there's guilt, of not being, the perfect mother, but they're not perfect because they're actually not giving to themselves. They're not 100%. Yeah, so those things.
One of the things that really stood out for me there, when you started talking about gratitude and the fact that you said people think they are grateful, it's become a bit of a buzzword, hasn't it? Gratitude and gratitude journals and gratitude
Yes.
practices, and it's fantastic. Like, I love it.
Right.
But it's very much also become a mental process for people, as in like almost a to-do list, and they kind of wake up, they name 3 things, but it's more
Right.
mental than it is emotional. And we've got to remember that gratitude is an emotion. We feel grateful, and we only then really experience true gratitude when we actually access the feeling that's attached to it. So I think that's really powerful as well. So I definitely think intention. I agree with you. That's probably the one in the beginning of people's self-development journeys that they struggle with the most. What would you say to somebody? Like, what kind of practical advice would you give to somebody that might be struggling just to set intentions in the first place?
Mm, I would say take a breath. As easy as that. Like, just take a breath, okay? Because sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, what's this new word that she's teaching me? Or like, what practice is this? Just take a breath, and then they'll take a breath and they'll feel more relaxed immediately, right? With one, even just with one breath, one deep breath in, and then slowly exhale. And then maybe the first word that comes up would be your intention. And they're like, oh, love, or oh, faith, oh, transform. And then all of a sudden, because of that one breath, they receive one word that they can set as an intention.
Beautiful.
So just take a breath.
Anyone listening can literally just try that now as well, can't they? Just take a breath and then see what comes up. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that definitely goes for any area of your life. If you're struggling to think of something or if you're overwhelmed, just take some deep breaths. And once
Yes.
you're calm state, things will start to come to you more naturally. Definitely.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Definitely. I definitely believe in that. And
Awesome.
for sure, please try it, everyone, right
Yep,
now.
yeah, definitely try it. Again, like we said, implementation, implement it
No.
right now. Definitely. So, KimiLu, is there anything else that you would like to add to this conversation, or anything else you think that our listeners really need to hear?
Ooh, well, I always love saying celebrate life. And you know this saying that you only live once, so or something like live as if it were your last day. That to me is like so daunting. Like, oh my gosh, why will I live as if it were my
Hmm.
last? I'm scared now. So I don't want to scare myself. So I have this, mindset of thinking, what if we see everything as if it were our first time, like as if this was my first guesting, like, oh my gosh, I'm celebrating you, Jonathan and Charlotte, I'm so happy to be here. I am celebrating my day. I'm celebrating like this cup of water. So I want everybody to, celebrate life as if it were their first time of experiencing something, and really like your world, your life will shift. Promise.
I love that. Like,
Mm.
that's when we live in awe, isn't it? That's when we really
Mm,
start to appreciate the simplest things that maybe we oversee on a day-to-day basis. That's beautiful. I really, really love that.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
KimiLu, let me ask you this. If you could get anyone to believe anything about themselves, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, this is a difficult question. Uh,
Putting you on the spot now.
what would they believe in?
Yeah, like if you could get anyone to believe something about themselves, what do you think it would be?
Oh, believe that they were given that gift and talent, whatever it is that they want to do, to pursue it. Like they were given that for a reason. I
Nice.
want them to believe that. Like there must be a reason. Like there must be a reason that I can hit high notes when I'm
Mm.
singing. There must be a reason why I'm so good at like, fixing things at home. Like that I don't know, like plumbing or whatever it is. There must be a reason why I can, put on makeup on myself and on other people very well. There must be. And so you pursue that and try it out if it's, something that would give you joy and peace, inner peace.
Brilliant. Love that answer.
Definitely. So for yourself, like what new belief, behavior, or habit has really made a massive impact on your life, say over the last 5 years?
Uh, well, gratitude would be one. Just like everybody else before, I thought I was grateful already until I started, writing it down. I also started creating little, gratitude circles. Like I would have a group on WhatsApp, and then every month I would have 8 people with me, and we would just exchange lists, and then comment on each other and celebrate each other's wins as well. So it's really, like the feeling of, oh my gosh, yay, they made it within like 1 month or whatever. So yes, I think that's really like something that I personally applied into my life already in the past 5 years. And now I'm such an advocate of course, teaching that.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Beautiful. I love that so
Mm.
much. Honestly, like there's been so many things that you've mentioned, like just even some great one-liners already, just since we've talked about. But if people really go away and reflect on the things that you said and listen to this episode again and really ask themselves, what are these words of wisdom really mean to them, I think that they'll really come away with some real
Right.
actionable steps for themselves. So listen, we want to thank you so much for obviously joining us today. But what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they're interested in jumping onto your Wellbeing Boost program? Where can they find out more?
Yes, there's an Instagram account. It's Wellbeing Boost Program. So everything is there. If you want to follow me on my personal account, it's KimiLu Life Coach. And I have a website, www.kimilulifecoach.com.
Awesome. So we will obviously put all those links in the show notes as well and tag you and everything. So it'd be super easy for anybody listening to come and find you as well.
Okay, so
Yay.
definitely. So I just want to see us say how grateful we are for you being on the show today. So take it back to gratitude.
Yes, I am more grateful. Thank you so much for having me. It was a fun conversation.